Yo, what's going on, man?
What up, my dog?
What up, Jay?
So we're gonna start off this episode. We were waiting for Richie, but he's apparently not showing up. Um, we're gonna lead off some breaking news. Nintendo has announced that they are partnering with Sony, and I want to give you a guess at what you think they're partnering with Sony for. And this is real. This isn't like me fucking around.
Mm, it's obviously video game related.
Mhm.
Um, because that's what Nintendo does. I know these things. Gosh, Nintendo and Sony?
Nintendo and Sony.
Really? Gosh, I would have thought Nintendo and Microsoft. Because I would have thought, Game Pass, Switch type, the stuff that we've talked about.
Right, right.
And quite frankly, the Sony ecosystem doesn't lend itself to that, in my opinion. Gosh, man, I don't know at all.
All right. Gonna give you one more hint. Nintendo, Sony, Zelda.
Re-releasing Zelda CDI
Yes.
as a
Wand
Sony
of
project.
Gamelon for the PS5
Yes,
exclusive.
as a Sony project. No, can't be that. TV show.
Movie.
No way.
Yes. So an official post to Nintendo investors with few details. The news was shared today. Film is being produced by Nintendo's Shigeru Miyamoto and Avi Arad, chairman of Arad Productions and former founder and CEO of Marvel Studios.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. So there's not a whole hell of a lot on it. They said he'll be between 15 and 20, Link, in this movie.
Okay, so it's hard to guess on who an actor would be because you and I are
Right.
not going to be able to figure that out.
So, and the Netflix series was canceled, and they've decided that they're going to do it as a movie.
Whoa, hold on, back up for a second here. Netflix series that was even okay. Maybe that's why I thought TV show. Maybe I saw an
Yeah.
article somewhere. Okay.
So, it's can't. So the series is canceled, but they've come through with this is going to be a movie. They haven't announced what game it's going to be based on yet. They
Okay.
haven't announced anything as far as I believe it's going to be animated, but they haven't even said that much. So this could very well be a live action.
Well, yeah. I mean, the world does lend itself to that. It's really easy. It's got a very Tolkien-esque type, Lord of the Rings vibe. A lot more action, but
Yeah.
no, that's awesome. I hope it's live action. That'd be cool.
And it actually has a director.
Is it like a known director or just some?
So, oh, you know what? And it is going to be live action.
Ooh,
So it is a live action film, and the director is named Wes Ball,
West.
and he is the guy who directed The Maze Runner.
Oh yeah. Okay. Oh yeah.
So
He also is doing the newest installment of Planet of the Apes.
yes, yes.
Okay. All right.
And so they said, yeah, so they said an actor between 15 and 20 to play Link.
Yeah, that's one thing I'd love to sit there if we could live action that out. I unfortunately have no clue at that range on who that would be. So
Yeah. Not even any idea of who the hell.
now I would assume they go the same because everyone would be roughly in the same age range, with exception of um, um, Ganon. I don't know where they go with that.
Yeah.
I
Oh, and here
mean,
we go. We have a writer too, Derek Connolly, who has worked on Skull Island, Detective Pikachu, Rise of Skywalker, and the Jurassic World movies.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's okay. So now my next question is: do you think if this is live action, you and I could play like the Moblins
Uh,
uh,
yeah, I don't see why not.
or an Octorok or
I mean, I'm gonna go more with. I think I look more like a fucking cave beast, so I'm gonna go with a moblin. Um, I can't really swim, so I can't be a Zora. I mean, I
or
can
the
swim, it's just not good.
or the jellies.
Oh, dude, I've got the body shape to be a gel.
I
That could
mean,
happen.
I
Um,
mean, I think I could. I would love to see, if they did this right.
mhm.
They did this right. They wanted to treat their fans of our generation correctly. It should just be nothing but 2 hours of him running around smashing pots and collecting rupees.
Yeah, yeah. Just smashing pot, just running in people's houses. Yeah, yeah, and just throwing the pots, like throw them at people. Just running around like attacking chickens and like burning down bushes and stuff. And then the one dude pops up out of the ground. He's like, "Hey, you burned my door!" And then he takes your rupees. He like holds you upside down and shakes you, and then all the rupees come out.
I just think that would be the only way this movie's made.
Yeah. No, you know what? And I want Dwayne the Rock Johnson to be in it, but he just plays the wall master, so it's just his hand. It's just like a gigantic thing of his hand comes out of the wall and grabs Link and takes him back to the beginning of the maze.
All right, so
Or the
but
dungeon.
so what, like, all right, so let's do some really way too early. This is obviously breaking news speculation here. Do you think they pick a story from a video game that's like a Breath of the Wild, or they go back to like a real classic, or do they create something fresh and new? Kind of like, even though it wasn't live action, but the latest Mario movie that was released this year, where it was kind of a fresh story that really wasn't wrapped around a game per se.
That's a good question. I think I don't know. It's I'd imagine it's going to be an amalgamation of different games. I don't think they're going to necessarily follow. Um, maybe my least favorite Zelda would be the one that they would do, which would be Ocarina of Time,
Mm.
because it lends itself to that. Like they might incorporate most of that story, but I don't know. I feel like I don't know. That's the only one that has like a major through line plot.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because like you go back to like the early games, there's not really a whole lot there. It's just like, it's adventure based, you're just doing your thing and whatever.
Right.
But they would think that they would throw like Easter eggs in of like, if all else fails,
Use fire.
fire, right? So, or they would just throw in like, and I'd make the goof about the throwing pots with the rupees, but you would think that like something like that has to be incorporated, because those were funny things. Now I could certainly see it would, to me, and I remember really was spending the hours playing Breath of the Wild, and I've yet to play the latest game, but you know the way that was presented to me was more like a movie than anything else.
Yeah.
I felt like I was playing through a movie, like it just the way it was, and the storyline was fantastic, and it was very pretty. Like everything was very just done so well. Like to me, it was like the penultimate Nintendo game. Like as much as I love Mario Odyssey and I love these other games, it was like, my goodness, like this is it. Like to me at that point in time, it's like it can't get any better than this.
Yeah.
For how I was feeling about games at that point, because it was like Nintendo figured out a way to make Skyrim and it was better. Like that's how I was in my head. Because you're using characters that I love and adore and I've since I was a child. So it's really easy to think that. But I always felt playing that game was like really like watching a movie. So I think that easily lends itself to it. But I also think like that they do what we did with the Mario movie this year, and we have all these characters and all this that obviously are well known for video games, but we write another story. I could easily see that happening. That still somehow fits in the universe, because guess what? The next best thing to do, get the movie going, make another game.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. So Breath of the Wild, I guess, lends itself more than because like I mean, Ocarina of Time, you can only do so much with. But Breath of the Wild would, I guess, actually make the most sense, like you said, because it's got all the lore in the background, and you can do it like a cutscene, like they did in the movie, or I mean in the game, and then you jump to Link waking up, and then talking to Zelda, and going from there, and then he has to find the 4 champions or the 4 beasts, and then shut down the beasts, and then go after Ganon. So I guess probably Breath of the Wild makes the most sense, but not necessarily a beat for beat of the story. You can tie other stuff in. There's so much you could do there. I mean, there's God, how many games?
I know. Yeah.
Not Wind Waker. Shit, what was the one? Link's Awakening.
Yes.
For the Game Boy.
Yeah.
That would even be a good one.
Yeah.
Like there's different stuff you could do, and I'm excited to see where they go with it.
And maybe it does end up years down the road, we end up with the Zelda multiverse, and we have like Zelda CDI mix it in with.
I quit.
Or I will say this, and as much as I love the Captain Lou Mario show, we did get some pretty awful Zelda cartoons that were incorporated into that. I know they're beloved by some, and you might be one of them, but I don't know, man.
Well, excuse me, princess.
I'm sorry, but you try to rewatch some of that stuff, and it's not great.
I remember I couldn't wait every Friday to see the Zelda cartoon. And it was looking back, it's so bad.
Oh, it's terrible, dude.
Dude, it really is. It's so bad because, like, you forget until you watch it. And golly, that is.
Yeah, it's not good. We rewatched some of the Mario show within probably the last 2-3 years, just because it was like, I forget, I think it hit a streaming service.
It's on Netflix, I think.
Yeah.
Netflix or Hulu. It's on one.
Yeah, it was one of the two. We were checking out some, and the kids just got the biggest kick out of watching the Zelda cartoons because of that reason. It's like, oh my gosh, they're like terrible. And it's like, yeah, but when I was your age, I thought this was awesome.
Yeah.
And,
dude, I want to do it as a drinking game. Every time Link does something obnoxious, take a drink. You're hammered.
You die
on the end of the 10 minutes or whatever it
is. 7 minutes later, alcohol poisoning.
Yeah. Everyone in your party has died of alcohol.
Oh man. That's such a cool announcement though. I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes. Hopefully it'll it's got to attract a name or two, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But no, that's cool. I like it.
So yeah, man, it's in live action. It is, I think it's going to be cool. I'm looking forward to it. But that said, we got some bigger stuff to talk about with regards to Hollywood. So this was posted by one of my friends who's a stuntman and has done some acting. Jeff Warrens posted that the SAG-AFTRA Hollywood Studios last, best, and final offer, that's what they called it. That's what the Hollywood Studios called it, falls short. And he gave us a little bit of info on why. And the studios are still insisting that they own the actors' likenesses and voices after their death through AI with zero payout to their estates.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. Like, because, and look, this is obviously a very gray thing. It's not black and white. It's whatever. But I would love to challenge anybody, whether you're famous or not, to sit there and act like okay, well, after say us say we're off the planet, and some crazy person wanted to continue our pod, um, saying that we do this for the next 40, 50 years, whatever. So after we're gone, and someone wanted to do it, not for anything, so but maybe just to say, oh, I'm going to keep this going, and they might make a buck off of it.
Right.
They will, but your family won't,
Right.
and that is crazy.
Exactly. Here's the thing, man. And look, whether actors are overpaid or whatnot is immaterial for this argument. What is a big deal is that these studios basically want to own these people. And that's not how it works. You
Right,
don't get
in
to
perpetuity,
right.
no
You
less.
don't get to oh, I hired you for a job, so guess what? Now I'm going to use your likeness for the rest of, until the heat death of the universe. Like, no, that's not how it works, man. Just because you
It,
paid me for one job.
right, and so here's my take on the whole thing. As far as like you just made like the whole point right then and there. I sign a 6-movie deal. I get paid for 6 movies. That's it.
Well, and then I
That
get the residuals on that. Like
exactly, exactly
whatever the contract is, whatever
for
contract
those
I sign,
6 movies.
right,
I don't get it for the 7th movie because I wasn't in that one,
right,
but I get it for the
exactly,
6th. But I get it for the first 6.
right,
Um, that's how it should be. It's not hard. It's not hard at
right,
all. And here, and the other thing too is, look, we can get in a whole different conversation about AI in general, and how great it is on certain things and how bad it could be for other things. But I go back and you look at a movie like Forrest Gump, where they spliced in old video and they put Tom Hanks in these scenes that were very classic. Everyone knew what they were. They were very historical. But they did it, because they were basically building a history movie along with the coincide with his story. So they were trying to, make it make sense type thing to see how famous this guy really was, but no one really knew who he really was. It was just one of
right,
those deals. But take that and multiply that exponentially is what AI does. And, you could make a whole new movie with Marilyn Monroe and, other classic actors that have long since been passed. And the studio that made that movie is the one making the money, not Marilyn Monroe's family. It's such an insane thing. It really is.
yeah.
Like I don't know. I don't know.
So yeah, so that's where I'm at with it. Is I just I can't I can't side with anybody but the actors and the writers in this case. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And
No,
the fucking audacity of these movie studios to think that they can treat people like that, kiss my ass.
and that's how you end up with. And again, I don't know how that whole works. I think it's a different conversation we could probably get into with unions and all this crap. But like to me, it would this is going to be the thing that maybe it disintegrates that part of it. Because hey, look, I'm not being able to make movies because I don't have my actors, I don't have my writers. How are you making money?
Right.
Seriously. I mean, is it all for your old stuff? And like that's not going to keep it going forever
Right.
because the market all went streaming. We've talked about this before where they're getting the artists are getting pennies per play and I'm sure the movie industry is in a very similar boat, I would imagine. I could be
Right.
wrong, but it's not like you're running out and buying the record, buying the DVD, buying, like we used to. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
So that market share is going to eventually shift around and whatever. So maybe that dissolves some, and maybe we turn into a new golden era of filmmaking because independent studios are rising back up. Kind of like crash and burn.
Yeah.
I just don't know how else that goes.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, I mean, I've got to think that eventually this isn't something that the union is going to buckle on. They're never going to give in to this.
No,
So, I mean, and the fact that the studios don't understand that shows how removed they are from reality. So the studios are going to, like you said, crumble. They're going to crash and burn because they're not going to be making money. No one is going to break the line to go do shit. So you're screwed. What's going to happen? Look, how many movies that we've been anticipating do we know of that have already been pushed back because
Right.
of this? There
Or
should be a point where you're either A, not releasing stuff because you don't have anything to release, or B, you're going to be releasing stuff that isn't good,
right,
that you're
right.
going to lose money on anyway because
Yeah.
you refuse to understand that a human being who they are is not something you can buy. Just overall, just say, "Oh, I'm going to own it forever." No, motherfucker. You sign a contract and I get paid and my family gets paid in perpetuity for that. Cool. We got a deal. But you don't just get to say you own that.
Right. Yeah, there has to be some kind of percentage agreement. And here's the thing. And this is the part that I can't say play devil's advocate on, but I'll at least, let's say that existed where they did say, okay, we're going to do a percentage. Now, the problem is that um, this too, being as much into wrestling as we have been over the years, that the wrestlers tend to get screwed over on merch or whatever. But that's all based off contract they signed. Now, how they were made to sign that contract, whatever. It is what it is. So I could certainly see that happening where it's like, okay, I will sign off, but my family only ends up getting like 10% and the studio gets 90.
Right.
I could see that happening, which is still not right.
Right.
But I guess that's the kind of the side. It's like, but they're still getting something. So,
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I can't imagine, and rightly so. I can't imagine the actors saying, "Oh yeah, well we're only going to take this, 10%, 15%, 20%."
no.
There's no way in hell
No, but
because
someone might.
somebody might. I would. I would
See,
because you know what? What the fuck else am I going to do? How much money am I making
but
versus?
no, but here's the thing though. That you make a great point though. How many people would be in that same spot though? Especially the people that are like kind of, maybe just trying to make it, or they're just, their bit role, or they're just not very well known. So like, how many people would do that? It's like, oh yeah, 10, 15%. I'll take that all day long.
But here's the thing. You and I would say that because we, just give us
We're
some
nobodies.
money.
I mean, let's just make that. Yeah.
But here's where I think it will never come to that is because people who would agree to take 10 to 15% are never going to be people that are going to be huge stars.
Right. No, exactly. 100%. And I think there's a sect of those people, though, a large enough sect that probably would, but like you said, though, overall, they would not agree to that. I can't see anyone making an agreement for less than a quarter. And even then, I think I'm shooting low.
Yeah, dude, no, I'm gonna say 60 to 75.
Oh, is that okay?
That's where I would put it because think about it this way. So in a normal contract, you're getting your full 100%, right? But you've got to be there, you've got to do everything. If I don't have to come in and do a full day's work, I would do that for 75%. If you're gonna run me through AI and processing and everything, and it's gonna come out and it's gonna make me look like, whatever. Okay, cool. 75% done. Do it. Use my likeness, use my voice. As long as you're not putting me in some kind of fucking Nazi uniform and making me do,
Right. There has to be that, and that's another great point. There has to be stipulations,
right.
as far as how it's used. But that's the other thing too. That's the weird part about saying forever is because things do tend to change. So it's like what I might be comfortable doing now, maybe fake me want to be comfortable doing it 100 years from now.
Right.
And it's a weird conversation. It
Well,
is.
think about this too. So, like, how many times have streaming services? So I know this has definitely happened with Game of Thrones, and I know it's happened with Stranger Things, they've gone back and they've changed things after the episodes have aired. So, what is to say that I mean, even with movies that are coming out, so with Across the Spider-Verse that just came out. Now, granted, it's animated, so it's a little easier, but they've changed lines of dialogue, omitted lines of dialogue, replaced lines of dialogue, added lines of dialogue after. So everybody went and saw it in the theater, and now they're getting it on streaming and they're getting it on DVD and Blu-ray and whatever, and they've changed it. So it's not even still the same movie that you saw in the theater that you're seeing at home. So what's to say that they don't put words in your mouth? Like you weren't comfortable saying a line, so then okay, well we used AI and made you say it.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. And then the way the technology is even now, it's like they could do that without even anyone. No one would realize that that was not real.
Right.
And it's, you know, it's crazy too. You're right too. The part about replacing scenes and whatever. And I've noticed that with streaming services, because it's like there's movies that I've watched that I've loved for years and years, and it's like sometimes I just have to rip the DVD out and rewatch something that I watched on streaming because it's like that scene wasn't in there, or I don't remember that scene, or they'll say it's like, you know, the old school theatrical release version or whatever.
Right.
That stuff's been around for a long time. But it's like, man, I just don't remember that scene, or maybe I got used to watching, like, DVDs were notorious for like the unedited version or the unreleased version. And those are the ones you'd watch over and over and over again. But there's always a difference. And you're right, though. All it takes is like one line, one scene, whatever, to change everything
Yeah.
about the character, about the story, you know, whatever. And yeah, it's weird. It's really, really weird. And I'm glad they're not buckling on this.
Yeah, no, they need to stick to their guns, and you know what? I support them. I hope they stick with it and don't kowtow to these fucking bigwigs that just want to own everything, that want to own them. You can't put a price tag on a soul.
No, and you know, here's the crazy thing. You know, and not knowing what, you know, contracts, whatever as goes, but everyone's like, oh yeah, so and so got paid, you know, $20 million to do a movie. Said movie makes $1.5 billion or some crazy figure. And you know, I'm sure there's, like you said, residuals, whatever. But it's like, who's really pocketing the money here?
Right.
Studios. I mean,
Right. And honestly, so even with that, if they make 20 million or whatever for making the film, who knows, number one, what their residuals look like? Because they may not have signed a good deal.
yeah, they might not have any. Or
Right. They
if
may
it is,
not.
it's very minimal. It doesn't really change the original
Right.
signing.
So then they get 20 million on this thing breaks world records for income from a fucking movie, and it's more money than the GDP of some small nations,
Right,
you
right,
know.
right.
And cool, you got what amounts to 5% of the total home, like the total money from that movie, or you got 1% of the total money from that movie. Like, sorry, man, but I feel like, you know, and especially to then be for the studios to then be able to be like, oh yeah, now we're gonna use you to make sequels, and it don't matter if you're alive or dead. It actually costs us less if you're dead. So, you know, we're gonna put a hit out on you.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't think that studios would actually do that, but fuck,
Dude,
man,
I mean, look,
stranger things have happened.
right, exactly. That's why I kind of just, you know, kind of lackadaisically said, yeah, but you're not wrong though. I mean, it's possible. I mean, maybe we've watched Goodfellas one too many times.
Yeah, that's possible. Hey, speaking of which, did you hear they're doing Godfather, or I mean Goodfellas 2 with an all
No,
AI cast?
no, they're not. I
No, I'm fucking with
was going to say, stop it.
you. I'm not. I wouldn't be surprised if that and Scarface 2 aren't in the theaters if
Oh,
they don't stick to their guns.
man.
No pun intended.
But Henry Hill's actually dead in real life.
I know, it makes me fucking sad, dude. People used to
uh,
say I look like him. I never fucking understood that.
really, I don't know. I don't get that one.
I
No.
had so so Ashley and Bean used to say that, and then I walked into a deli here not the other day. I walked into a deli here, probably like 4 years ago. I was completely clean shaven. Walking, they go, "Hey, anybody ever tell you look like Ray Liotta?" I'm like, "Yeah, actually." Somebody
Actually,
told me
they
that,
have.
and I still don't fucking get it. I was like, the only guy in Goodfellas that I look like is fucking Joe Pesci. Like, I don't understand it. I like there's plenty of people that I look like, but not him.
Hey, you know what? That speaking of, that's one thing. Speaking of the whole movie thing, and we've talked about this here before, but that's one thing people will never appreciate is having to go flip and change the VHS or flip the DVD because it ran over.
Yeah. Oh, you know how pissed off I was when I had to flip over my Goodfellas DVD? I was so mad. I'm like, no, that's the whole reason I have a DVD. So I don't have to fucking flip it over, you assholes. No, that's not how this works.
Yeah,
I'm
which
like,
is funny because the only reason why it was so long, and
yeah.
but yeah, it was weird. Um, I just cracked up because it was like I think that was the only one I ever had that I had to flip over.
I feel
I
like that
think
one was it
maybe
that one?
Casino was on 2 discs,
Yeah, I feel like Pearl Harbor was on 2 discs.
likely because that's another long one.
But even now, like I feel like there's still even on DVD because okay, maybe they didn't have the double layer back then.
No, yeah, because you went from a time DVDs and I could be wrong in saying this, but they were typically 4.7 gigs. And I think dual layer close to double that. I want to say they were 8.5. I'm probably wrong, but it was close. Let's see. I'm going to look this up real quick. The single layer DVD capacity is 4.7 gigs. That's sad how I knew that. Double layer DVD was 8.5. Yeah. So, yeah. As always, I'm right again. I was kidding. But no, so it wasn't exactly double. It was close, but that's why, single layer DVDs just had that limit. And it was roughly, a little over 2 hours of film time for a single layer DVD.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, no. Um,
yeah, well, 2.5 hours maybe.
yeah, two and a half, 2.5.
Yeah, because I remember the first 2 DVDs I ever got were The Patriot and Dumb and Dumber.
Nice.
And The Patriot's a pretty long. Was that like 220 maybe?
I've never seen it.
You've never seen that movie?
No.
Really?
Yeah, I wanted to, but I've never seen it. It was one that when I worked at Circuit City, and I worked in the DVD section, I was like, man, I gotta buy this movie. I gotta buy this movie. And I just never ended up buying it.
Oh man, are you like I was like a big Revolutionary War buff, so absolutely,
Yeah.
that
Oh
was
no. Dude, I loved everything about it. I just never saw it.
it's so good. It's
And then
so there
by the time I was like in a position to be like, all right, I'm gonna buy this movie. Mel Gibson had done his
stuff. Yeah,
shit, and I was just like, maybe we
I,
don't give Mel Gibson money.
I will say this: there are a couple scenes in that where you'll be like, "Wow, this is awesome." It's just a good one. No, but Dumb and Dumber was the other one, and that was the other thing too. Because if you recall, do you remember the early DVD cases for movies? They were
Yeah.
paper, and then they had like the little plastic flap that.
I have Dumb and Dumber in that
Yeah.
cardboard with plastic flap. I still
Yep.
have it.
Yeah, they weren't. Yeah, kids, if you're listening to this, they weren't all plastic cases.
Yeah, back
They're,
when
they're,
the internet used to be robots screaming at each other. It
you
was
know, the funny thing is, and you're probably the same way. The first DVD players we had were on our computers.
we had no. So for me, my dad had. You remember my dad's bar downstairs?
Mm-hmm, I do.
He had hooked up. Dude, when he made that, he went all out. Our first DVD player was a badass, like Sony whatever with our Sony Trinitron TV and all that
Oh,
shit. He went all
Sony
out.
Trinitron, man. Now you're,
So now
yeah.
we had some good DVD players.
No, so the first one I remember having was in a PC. So I remember, and then of course I'm thinking of this in like in my own little realm because I relegated myself to my room quite a bit. But like I had it in a desktop PC, so like I would watch movies on my computer, um, which is funny to think about because like that's what most people just do now.
Yeah,
You know,
dude, I'm trying to think of the last movie I actually watched on my TV versus on my iPad. Um, but no, see, I remember Christmas 98 going into 99, I think. Or maybe it was 99 going into 2000. One or the other, like right around that time was when I got a CD burner for Christmas. So,
yeah, but yeah, you're right. It would have been around that time.
yeah. So that's what I got around then. Um, it must have been shit. Now I'm trying to think. Yeah, it must have been the 90 must have been 99 going into 2000. I got that for Christmas, popped it in, and then because that was when my first year at Stockton. So that's when, oh, I can burn CDs now.
Mm.
Okay. And then I had Napster, obviously, so I'm downloading like everything. And I remember burning a CD and driving around Christmas night listening to that CD with it was me, Ryan, and Matt, and I don't remember if Reebok was with us or not that night, but it was me. I know me and Ryan and Matt for sure.
You know, it's crazy too because back then stuff like that was like so new, and a lot of people did just first of all, they weren't technically savvy enough to figure it out, like as far as like download music and burning discs. But there was a few of us that were, and I don't know. I made some money doing that. I don't know. Did you ever make any money doing it? Yeah.
Nah, the only thing I ever did was I got an early copy of oh, what album was it? It was Eminem. Was it the Slim Shady LP? I don't know, the one with God, yeah, this is great. Lots of dead air on this fucking episode. The one his second album,
Oh, the
Marshall Mathers
Red
LP?
Kurt was it Marshall? Yeah, yeah. Marshall Mathers was the second one. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Slim Shady
so
was first, then Marshall Mathers second, then the Eminem Show was the
yeah, the
third.
Eminem Show is the third one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I got the Marsh yeah, I got the Marshall Mathers, and it was but the one where he's got Dream On in it, that was cut off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, part of it was cut off. Part of the song was cut off. And I when I first heard that song, like when I first heard that song on the radio and it continued past that part, I was like, oh shit. I
Yeah,
thought it just cut off right there.
there's more to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was that one. I think it was that
I
one that cut off. But one of the songs cut off and I was like, oh shit. So I
and
sold a couple copies of that.
that was right around the time like that era. You and I would start hanging out a lot, and I always had a very eclectic taste, so I started putting together like mixed CDs and whatever back then. But I went for any weird Eminem release that I could find, and Beastie Boys because that's what I was into. I went through these weird releases, but I put together these like oddball mixed CDs, and I sold them to Toucan Do. And I would sell them to them for $5 a piece, and they would turn around and sell them to the public for $10 a piece.
Oh no shit.
Yeah, and I made $500 doing that.
Jesus
so
Christ.
so much so that the owner came to me and was like, "Okay, we can no longer do this, but we'll hire you." So that's how I got a job there.
Okay.
Was because I was booting CDs through them, and they were like, "Hey, you can't do this if this is illegal as hell, but we would like to have your expertise on staff." And so that turned into me working there for a year. And I'll say this publicly, I made them so much money the year I was there because they were starting to list things on eBay and like these weird records and stuff. I spent a year listing 15,000 items on eBay. I'm not kidding you, 15,000.
Shit.
That was me. And I asked for $1 an hour raise from $6 to $7 an hour. And there's no telling how much money I made them. And the owner flat out told me that I wasn't worth it.
Get the fuck out of here.
That's why I quit. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, I started working there based off illegal activity, bootlegging. But then my expertise because I was like I was the nerd, man. Like I
Right.
figured it out. And yeah, because eBay back then was, carte blanche, like you do whatever you wanted.
Oh yeah, dude, it's the Wild West.
Yeah, and so I mean they're making money hand over fist. It's like you have access to lists, you also have access to see what's sold. And yeah, it was ridiculous. And no telling profits that returned. So when I finally asked for money, it was like, no. Jesus. Oh well.
That's fucking stupid.
I don't know. I did like the one guy there that I worked with, Nate. He was cool. He was a long-haired guy.
Yeah, I remember going there a lot. It was right around the house from Jenny, right around the corner from Jenny's house. Who Jeff, her brother, who I
See, that's how it's what we do. We bring
it
it
all
around.
comes full circle,
We
kids.
bring it around. But no, this has been a good one. This solid conversation. When you had sent that to me and Richie earlier, and again, we always say this: we gotta get Richie's thoughts. I don't know how many times we've said that, and either A, have gotten his thoughts, or B, like completely forgotten about what we've talked about.
Yeah.
But this is seriously one I would love to see what he thinks, because between you and me, like he's like the guy. Like he is the film and TV buff. I realize that you guys watch a lot more than I do, as far as current stuff, and maybe not like a lot more, but like comic book stuff and maybe those types of things. I just don't. But I would be curious to see what he thinks, because what happens when this new stuff stops coming out?
Yeah.
You know,
It's going to be interesting because they're not going to have an income stream.
I am curious though, too, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but does this just affect movies and TV shows, or is this also video games?
It's just you know what? That's a good question. Let me do the Google on that.
I'm only, I know it won't be every single one, because some of them don't have the acting, but like I just, I've said it here about RoboCop, Rogue City, and there's quite a bit of acting in that game. You would imagine that Peter Weller is still a member of SAG,
Yeah. So yes, actually, it does affect video game members as well.
So there we go. Now we just have a new conversation, I guess.
Yeah. So they voted 98.32% in favor of strike authorization on the interactive media agreement that covers members' work on video games.
Wow. I
Okay.
would say that's pretty high.
So it says it does not mean the union is calling a strike. It
Oh,
just
just in
means
favor of.
right. So they're going to see. Let's see. It was initiated. Okay, so let's see if it actually went through.
It's yeah. I thought about that. I was like, and I don't necessarily mean the night trap of video games, but
Right.
no, but video games in general, though, they typically have quite a bit of storytelling through acting. It's voice acting, but it's still acting.
All right, so it doesn't look like they have yet. But
That,
during the strike, the SAG-AFTRA strike, they're saying that people can do voiceover work in video games and stuff. But as of right now, they've not yet initiated a strike, even though it has been authorized.
interesting. Interesting.
So,
Huh.
yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting piece of the puzzle. That and before we wrap up, wrestling too, I think is another interesting one. Where wrestling, soap operas, those types of things that are you know dailies or wrestling is basically daily at this point. I mean,
Yeah.
let's not kid ourselves. There's wrestling every day. But no, there's a lot to that. It's, you know,
I my question is, I wonder what the union thinks about John Cena wrestling at this point,
yeah,
because technically it could be argued that he's doing that to promote his projects that he has coming out.
right.
But
Yeah,
I haven't seen anything or heard anything where he's actually been promoting anything, but he wants to maintain visibility during the strike. Same with The Rock.
yeah,
If, you know, I wonder how the union views that, but so far I haven't seen anything negative. Um, what I do what I do wonder is, would wrestlers be better served becoming members of the Screen Actors Guild?
yeah. No kidding. No kidding.
Because
Yeah.
think about that, because that's a whole nother can of worms. You've got because you've got the video games, you know. So if you sign a legend, I know they have the legends contracts and stuff like that, but I'm sure all of that stuff is going to be changing now
Oh
that
yeah.
they've merged with
Yeah.
UFC.
It's another big to do basically.
Right. So I'm wondering at some point if we don't see either A, the wrestlers join SAG, or if they end up like unionizing themselves.
Yeah. No kidding. And I think that's a good conversation for another pod. And I do have a thing we can tease out on a feature of one of our other shows on a Steve Jeltz. I think you and I should do a XFL USFL talk.
Yeah.
I think we've had a lot of good fun talking XFL in the past on here, and I think that's a good conversation for a Jeltz.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
So we're going to tease that out. So
Yeah.
anyway, been a good show. Got any parting words?
Fuck Dallas.